Hey everyone, this is Ben Proca with Trifit-XT. We've had a lot of interest in the Brick House Adventure Race this year, so I wanted to go over something for kind of some of you new adventure racers, or some of you who are just kind of on edge, like, hey, I don't really know what adventure racing involves. So I just want to go through some of that stuff to um, help encourage you to try this out if you're not already, and then also give you some tips for doing your first adventure race. All right, what is adventure racing? The heart of adventure racing involves biking, which is usually off-road, but not necessarily. There's sometimes like urban sections where you'd go into a small city and do something, but usually it's off-road. And then you have running, which is also called trekking, and then paddling. So that's kind of the basics of adventure race. You're probably going to do those three things in almost any adventure race that you have. In addition to that, you may also have to navigate, have various special tests, things like rappelling, climbing, a short swim where you'd have to wear still a life jacket for it just because there's a different set of rules for that, and almost anything else you could really think of. And every adventure race kind of company has their own kind of way of doing things. So there's a little bit of learning curve just when you do a race, let's say by Too Cool Racing or Terra Firma or Texas Adventure Racing. They all kind of have their little spin on how to do different things. So that takes a little bit just to learn about. And even us, with us putting on the event, that we're probably going to do things just slightly different, but we're kind of taking a little bit of what we've learned from all those awesome groups. All right, the adventure race course, and sometimes I'll just abbreviate that with AR. There's some that are like 100% navigation, where you're given a topo map, UTM, you have to bring a UTM ruler, compass, and you're going to plot every single thing. Now, just because they're plotting, it's just an XY coordinate, stuff that, the students learn in 5th grade, but a little bit bigger number. And if you mess up, you're going to the wrong place. I mean, that's happened plenty of times. Teams are usually given what's called a passport to prove you went to that checkpoint. It's some way you punch it with some sort of hole punch device, and it'll have a number sequence. Or again, every race is a little bit different on that. We'll have our way of doing it for that. There's also the other way, 100% marked course, and this would be like essentially like doing a triathlon with, instead of swimming, you're having a paddle leg. And sometimes there's not even a map involved with this. They'll just say, you just kind of have to remember, okay, follow the pink ribbons for the run, follow the blue ribbons for the bike, or whatever. But there's also, that's the other style where it's just 100% marked. And then there's the next are pre-marked maps, which is kind of a neat thing. So it's kind of, you'll have navigation, but things are marked on there, so you're not doing that logistical task of, where you misplot something. And of course, there could be a hybrid of it, where part of it will be marked, part of it's not. Just anything in between there. So equipment. You don't need a ton of stuff, particularly for our race. Some other races start getting a little bit more equipment demands, especially when you get longer races. You need to be a little bit more self-sufficient for longer periods of times. Again, for our race, you essentially need your mountain bike, helmet, and some shoes, and you're able to rent the kayak and paddle from us. So, and also a way to carry water. That's the other thing. You have to have enough water. It's going to get you through whatever leg you're on. When you come back to transition, which is usually abbreviated with just TA, you'd be able to restock when you go there. Shoes, usually trail shoes are best. I've done some running shoes, but my best road running shoes really aren't very good at adventure racing shoes, because there's no telling if you get through some sandier stuff or going over things that get wet, they get slick. But I say that's the shoes. Bike, you got to have a bike and a helmet. We do allow hybrids, gravel bikes, cyclocross bikes. Or there's no rule against it. You could actually bring a tri-bike, but you probably are going to just destroy it out there. And a road bike would be incredibly rough. You need something with a little bit more traction, especially for our race. We just have a couple sandy sections, and again, you probably could get away with almost a road bike, but I wouldn't recommend it. It'd be very slick in just the hills with dirt, not being on a road. But a hybrid or cross bike would work fine, especially depending if you chose some of the routes that weren't as technical. Um, I say that would work well. We talk about the ability to carry water. A camel pack works great, and then that way you can carry your spare bike tube or whatever you need in there. A compass and first aid kit. Usually just some basic first aid stuff. Something you could just put quickly in like a Ziploc bag or something like that. And compass, you probably don't need one for our race, but it would be a good tool to have just to double check, make sure your map is oriented right, and it would just help you. It could only help you out. It's not going to hurt you. But again, some people, if you've ever been to Magnolia Hill Ranch and you have the trail system, you can kind of figure it out just like if you were, taking a map out and finding something in a store. And I'll give you an example of a map and how ours will be set up in a little bit. All right, what the Brick House Adventure Race will involve. All right, we're going to have roughly 3 to 5 miles of trail running with basic navigation. And I say basic if you can follow how to get to a certain spot in the grocery store, you probably have the navigational skills needed for this. We're going to let you choose your route, and again, you don't need a compass for this, but again, might recommend it. Biking, the trails are easy. You're going to go about 6 to 10 miles, and again, that depends on the route you take. Sometimes the fastest route, or the shortest route, sometimes the shortest route is not always the fastest route. And again, my recommendation would still be a mountain bike. Personally, I would just leave the suspension locked out for it because it's just that fast of a course. But again, hybrid, cross, gravel will work fine. Paddling, you're going to go 1 to 2 miles. This is usually very easy to navigate, especially in this lake. You're either on one side or the other. We'll have either kayaks or canoes available to rent when you register, so make sure if you're wanting that, you need to get that. We've been having this year, we've been having quite a few utilize that, so that's probably going to be the first thing to run out that caps kind of our limit on that. And special test, without going too far, you could have something where, like, let's say we give you a sponge and a bucket, and we say, okay, you got to fill this bucket up with water using this sponge, like run to the lake and back. Or maybe you have to stack like blocks a certain height using a pattern. Just things like that. I don't want to give away too much of what I already kind of have an idea of what we're going to do, and there's going to be some fun stuff for that. Tips, all right. Even though this is a race, I tell people take your time, especially if you're everyone, make sure you're going the right way. It's a lot better to go slowly the right direction than fast in the wrong direction. That's just never good. Communicate with your teammate. And this is where you can you can see some like little sometimes spouse fights here, especially if it gets a little bit heated. This is a shorter race, so usually doesn't get too taxing on you, but I've done some longer races and 12-hour races, and you kind of get a little bit hungry, you get a little tension between the two. You think you should go this way or that way, but just communicate with your teammate. Let them know, hey, you're going too fast for me, or hey, I can pick it up. Same thing on the boat. Pick marks where you can go, and I say that's the next spot. The person on the back has the steering power in the boat. That's the one who really controls what direction it goes more so. So make sure you're thinking about that when you choose who's going to sit where. And also when you're paddling, pick something, say, hey, we're aiming for, and make sure it's a unique mark, not like that pine tree when there's 100 pine trees. So you both know that you're kind of aiming for that section. That will help you out a lot. And like I said earlier, the shortest route may not always be the fastest route. We're going to have trails on here. Some of them might, if we're not using them for the race, they might not be cut for a long time. It just really depends. So if you see that it's really thick, that might not be the best way to go. Um, you can kind of tell when you've got on a certain trail if it's going to be really thick and slow, or maybe it's going to be too technical or something like that. All right, so here's a basic map reading. I kind of put what we'll have for ours. I chose Huntsville State Park just because this one was easy to pull up. I didn't want to pull up what map we're going to use, but like here would be in the middle, TA. That's transition. That's to let you know where you are for that. And then let's say we're going out for the run leg. There's an R1 and an R2, and that's probably what we're going to use for our markings. So you could choose, and the sheet might say, hey, this can be in any order. So you might decide, hey, we want to go this way to get to R1, or we're going to go to R2 first. We're going to go this way, and then we'll come back down. So you can see how easy it really might be to get here. This map has the contour lines, so you can see this is a little bit of a hill right here. But again, you can choose how to get here. You might choose, like I would probably choose this route right here, go to R1 and then 2 because you'd have this spot. I could see the mistake being here if you, weren't right dialed in. You might think that this little road might be this trail here, so you could see some people looking here possibly. This is just ideas. This is just what happens in adventure race, and that's where you kind of want to keep track. I didn't have the map scale on this one because I just cropped this out. And then it could say for the bike, hey, we want you to go, you have to get B1 first. So there's the orange trail actually goes out and around here, and you'd have to get B1 and then B2. We might say you have to get them in order. So that would be a case where you'd get them in that order, and that would keep you flowing. Let's say it's a tighter trail, we might want you to do that, just so there's no issues on that trail. And then you can see our paddling ones that, and I say this is just a made up one. This is not a real race here. That could be on a buoy out this way, and this one could be on a tree right here. So you just paddle up to them and punch those, and then head back to where you got your boat. So that would just be kind of basic map reading. Here you have a little spot showing this is a direction that's north, and again, that could just help orient you a little bit. But if you could find these spots, if you went to Huntsville State Park and you could find like where these trails are going, you'd be fine. And again, people walk these trails all the time, and they know where to make the turns. So again, this is about all the more complicated it would be on finding the checkpoints. So I thought I'd show you one of my races I did. GPS units aren't allowed to be out using them, but a lot of times they'll allow you to like I'll put mine in my backpack so I don't have access to it, and I just start it before the event. So here's one I'm going to talk you through. This is about 3 hours I think I spent out on this one. This was a 6-hour race, and I had a lot of things happen. I raced this one solo, and sometimes solo is challenging because you have no one to kind of double check what you're doing. So I'm just going to go ahead and play through this. This was a marked course at the beginning, and then it went to 100% navigation. So we started off with running, and you see I'm moving pretty quickly there. And then here we got our checkpoint. We got all of our other checkpoints we had to go to. So I had to plot those, and that's why I was sitting there. And then here's where I'm looking for a checkpoint, and I'm actually in the wrong area. So you can see I'm kind of searching around, and I'll go out, and you can see those little dips, me going and checking, looking for different checkpoints. I think that was actually like a draw, and I went to one and it was not the right one, and then I went to another one. All right, here came one of the issues. This is where I actually went in, looked for a checkpoint, and then I dropped my compass. And I'm going to show you, this was a cloudy day, I remember this. I'm going to show you what happens, and these are much farther off into the woods, this one. It's actually, you'll see where I do this little loop around here. This is where I drop it. And I'm going to start heading out this way, and I actually think I'm heading back to the main trail right here. So this was a little bit scary, but one of the things I had to do was I to walk in a straight line, because your tendency is to walk in a circle. I just kept on picking trees far up ahead to shoot for, to take the straightest line I could. And then once I found a trail, I had to guess, like, am I going to go this way or that way? I chose to go this way because I knew it would eventually take me to something. And then I found where I was. I was going to kind of call it a day and head back to transition, but I ended up catching up with a group who had an extra compass, let me use it, and then I got to finish this leg of the race. Again, it felt like it was forever long. It felt like those like few minutes out there was like hours, even though it was, I think it was like 30 or 40 minutes, just because I didn't know where I was at. Again, our checkpoints are not going to be that hard. That's to just show what can happen, especially on a cloudy day, because a cloudy day you lose your reference from where the sun might be if it's that cloudy, and that's what happened to me. Is I was actually heading the opposite direction. I'd got completely turned around because I was looking for that checkpoint, and I realized I dropped my compass and had no clue where I was at that point. So I just figured I'd share that. Again, our race is not going to be near that hard. Everything is going to be close to the trails, and it's a much smaller area. But again, this is kind of a learning thing for everyone, and I want people to be able to kind of see how that is. All right, so that's pretty much it for the Brick House Try Do Adventure Race. If you're doing the triathlon or duathlon on Sunday, I'd recommend giving the adventure race a try. As you could see in that 6-hour race, there's a lot of downtime just looking for checkpoints. So a lot of times it's just jog for a mile, and then you get a minute that you're looking for something, or 30 seconds or whatever. Then you're jogging again. So you get these nice little breaks kind of in there. And every time I've done back-to-back races like that, like adventure race Saturday, triathlon Sunday, I've really been fine as far as racing goes. Like, it was just kind of a nice warm-up for me. So I hope that helps out. If you have any questions, let me know. This is our QR code that takes you to the registration link. All right, have a good one.